FDI news, defense, we've got pharma, we've had the entire DTH and broadcasting space as well. If you had a chance to look through some of those announcements, what really stood out to you?
No, I think clearly within the pharma and defense space and DTH space, I think one good positive part is the 100% FDI ABA is going to attract a lot of foreign capital, and I think that is definitely something most of the Indian companies would welcome. I think if you talk about defense, I think 100% FDI would obviously mean smaller players actually allowing strategic partners to come and bring in capital, which I think is a big requirement for technology in the defense space. The same thing goes for pharma. As you heard Mr. Dinesh saying that pharmaceutical companies would obviously encourage foreign capital coming in because R&D costs are prohibitively quite expensive. So I would say that you'll probably see a lot of action in the smaller companies. In the defense companies, something like an Astra Micro or typically a Walchand Nagar, companies which are already big, I think may not sound the idea of offering equity.
The Walchand Nagar management said.
So I think the smaller companies, the medium-sized companies could obviously welcome this, and I think this is a good sign for most of the sectors like DTH or pharma or defense, where a lot of capital is required to be brought in. So I think net it's a good positive sentiment booster for the markets.
Okay, fair enough. We've got some of these aviation counters moving as well, but apparently they're not going to actually allow foreign airlines to invest up to 100%. So that was a bit of a disappointment.
No, I think clearly, I think my sense is, after the jet deal, I think not many announcements have come in. But my sense is, I think there's always a waiting in the pipeline, and probably most of the Indian players would also welcome a strategic partner, provided he brings in technology, he brings in capital. So my guess is, I think, the aviation industry is definitely going to welcome it as a long-term positive. Maybe in the short term, you may not see any kind of big earnings booster because of this announcement.
All right, fair enough. What about IT today, Avinnash? Let me just bring up some of those IT names. A bit of strength coming in there, possibly on the currency weakness as well. But, we saw that in early morning trade. We continue to see a bit of support coming in there. Is that a good sign according to you?
No, I think today's rupee weakening ABA is definitely more of a sentimental factor because, I think Mr. Rajan had a very strong hold on the currency side. Most of the FIs actually, was very positive on him. So I think this kind of weakness, my senses may not continue. And more importantly, we are heading for the Brexit. Those companies which actually deal with Europe and where their earnings are largely into pounds, something like a Tech Mahindra, I think needs to be watched very closely because in the event, the Brexit actually goes against, most of these companies would obviously face a short-term negative. So I would prefer to wait and watch. I think overall, I think, once the Brexit happens and if it goes out of the euro, then the dollar appreciates and obviously the pound weakens and the emerging currencies turn weak. So longer term, definitely it would be a big positive for IT, but the broad market may not like it. So probably just wait and watch for some time before taking a plunge on the IT sector.
Well, we have 5 minutes left to go for close. So let me run through some strategies with you as well.
Sure, so cement pack I had mentioned, I had not really given levels. So JK Lakshmi is a buy with a stop loss at 384. You could see targets of 400 to 405 on JK Lakshmi. Also ACC is looking good in the charts. It's seen a good up move. We could see targets of 1600 there. So buy that with a stop loss at 1560. Ultratech also is looking good in the charts. We could see higher levels on Ultratech. So that's a buy with a stop loss at 1330 for targets of 1420.
All right, so those are a few strategies coming in from Mohit as well. Avinnash, I want to understand, we've had so much news, right? We started this morning feeling so tentative about the RBI governor's retirement and how markets would read into that. And now at the end of the day, we've had the government come out with this slew of big bang reforms, which as we kind of read the fine print, we realize some of them are possibly a little bigger than others. But overall, the mood suddenly just turned by the end of the session. So I know we're watching out for Brexit, but that apart, do you think that markets are now just kind of beyond anything that could be seen as bad news as such? I mean, even on the RBI governor's retirement news, that we didn't really see too much of a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, I think somewhere possibly ABA, the government also wants to showcase the fact that they would obviously make efforts to ensure that the RBI governor is replaced as fast as possible. I think if the governor names comes within a couple of weeks, I think that would remain that would be a big positive because that remains that removes a lot of uncertainty from the system. And I think clearly, as you rightly said, once the Brexit is over, I think markets will obviously focus on the monsoon session and more on the domestic triggers rather than the global triggers which we have been talking for the last couple of weeks. So I think probably if Brexit goes well, if it's a neutral call, you'll probably see a big bounce back coming in, and then I think everything will be focused on the domestic markets.
All right. Are you also tracking some of these cement names?
I think I would be more comfortable on the smaller cement companies. I think something like a Heidelberg Cement, a Mangalam Cement, a JK Lakshmi Cement. I think clearly post-monsoon our sense is that whatever green shoots we are seeing in the economy, and I think cement is the first infrastructure building block. You're going to see strong double-digit volume growth, and cement pricing has also improved over the last couple of quarters. So I think all these 2 to 3 stocks, I think would obviously be a good, buying kind of strategy, provided one uses the decline to build a portfolio. I mean, for a medium to long term.
Okay, a couple of the other movers today, and the entire Tata pack, in fact, was on the move today, whether it was the frontline or the mid-cap names. So that entire pocket was moving. IT, as we mentioned, cement was another theme. We saw some strength in Hindalco as well, up close to 2% today, and Reliance was up about 1.5% or so. So it was a decent day for Reliance as well. We've been waiting for some kind of traction on some of these auto names, but not really seen too much on that front yet. Financials, we were talking about some of the PSUs, but in the NBFCs or mid-cap financial names, even the smaller PSU banks, any particular names there, Avinnash?
I think from a smaller banks, clearly, if you talk about the private sector name, something like a Karnataka bank or something like a federal bank, my sense is, I think, within the PSU bank, I think space the larger banks like POB, SBI could possibly, outshine better.
Sorry, Avinnash, we'll come back to you in a moment. We've got a comment coming in from Shaktikanta Das. Let's listen in.
Context of